welcome back to the Spark Film Show. In our first half, we have been speaking about Suicide Squad, and we will continue to, because there's so much stuff. We've already got through quite a lot of it. We've got some of your responses you've been sending in. Thank you very much to everyone who sent stuff in. If you want to join the conversation for next week, LRJ Film Show on Twitter and Facebook is how you get involved. Some points to get through now. James Corker, nowhere near as bad as the critics say. Really decent film with some quality performances. Joker is creepy, if anything, with my favourite being Deadshot and Harley, as they really nailed the roles. Maybe the critics don't like DC. This is one point I want to mention.
Ugh.
Critics don't have a vendetta against DC. They literally don't care enough to have any kind of vendetta. Critics aren't, well, you know, the critics that you know and trust aren't being paid by Marvel to write bad reviews of DC. Critics have got integrity. They say what they see. We say what we see. We don't consider ourselves to be like class critics. We just sort of talk about the films. Critics don't care enough about superhero films to have vendettas. They don't like the films. That's kind of it.
To be fair, I'm purposely trying to separate myself, because I know that critics really did come down on it quite badly, and a lot of me can really see why.
Yeah.
That it's one of those films where, but
I mean, David Ayer said he didn't make it for critics. He made it for the fans who go and watch movies and love movies.
Yeah.
And that was before shouting
That's
F
what
Marvel.
critics do. Critics watch films and review films because they love films. They don't do it because they've been assigned to that post.
At the same time, though, even I would say it's mediocre at worst, but it's good at best.
The thing about criticism as well is that for a lot of films, the reviews can be make or break. For this, it won't be, because people want to see it anyway. But for certain other films, bad reviews mean people won't see it, and as a result, films don't get made. Certainly, smaller filmmakers who want to make future stuff, if they get some bad reviews, that could kill their career. Duncan Jones at Warcraft, he's been working so hard to get, to get to where he wants to be with Warcraft. And it didn't go too well. It's going to come crumbling down.
Duncan Jones,
David
also
Ayer,
known as Zowie Bowie.
Yes,
which is
David Bowie's
quite
son.
interesting.
So I don't like that. And what you said about F Marvel on stage, that's just funny. That's just funny because
it was cringy. It was like,
yeah.
like F Marvel.
Supposedly,
it's like, really,
he was just echoing.
It seems like they've got one on you right now.
Supposedly, he was just echoing what somebody in the crowd said, but still,
He's tranking pretty hard.
Yes, he is.
He's tranking.
To trank is to make Fantastic Four and then cry on Twitter and then quit Twitter and then never make another noise for another ever since. Alex Miller, Suicide Squad is a colourful, lively and heart-pumping thrill ride of a superhero film with a great soundtrack to match an interest in supervillains whose flashbacks give a great depth to their characters, really worth seeing. And I think he said it was his favourite superhero film of all time now, ahead of Guardians.
It beat Guardians as his favourite superhero
Yeesh. Liam Lillico, who told me beforehand when he was going to see it, if it was bad, he was going to leave and go drinking instead. He says, I'm not sure how I feel about it. Did I sit through it? Yes. So that's something, I guess. Was there any story anywhere in sight? Not that I could see. Did I get bored at times? Yes. It was definitely a Harley and Deadshot film rather than anything else. I found Harley annoying when on screen was the Joker. Otherwise, I enjoyed Robbie's performance. I also think Leto's made himself look a little daft. He's beefed up his performance to something it definitely wasn't. One thing I've taken with is the soundtrack. What on earth were they thinking? It had so much potential, but flopped big time for me. They straight up Jack Guardians of the Galaxy was a quirky and fun mix of songs, but it just got on my nerves, and most of it served no actual relevance to the film whatsoever. That simmered somewhat after the first half, because they did actually forget to put music in the second half. That was a total error of editing for them. As a whole, it was something with so much more potential, but I think the short time it was written in, I seem to remember 6 weeks, he says, and the way it was shoddily edited took away any hope for it to be fantastic.
I think for me, I think while the song was playing, I think I've kind of nailed what it was that put me off. Now I think I know what it is. I think obviously the Joker's title is the Clown Prince of Crime.
Yeah,
and what it is you get the crime part, and you get the insane part. What you don't get is you don't get the fantastic theatrics of the Joker, and I think that was for me what it was missing. He felt too much like an insane mob boss. He felt to me less like the Joker and more like a bad imitation of Joe Pesci from Goodfellas.
Yeah,
and he seemed out of place in a lively comic book world. He felt like a character from Casino, and it didn't work for me.
At least in Casino, Joe Pesci killed somebody with a pen.
No, yeah, because yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
A lot of the stuff going into it has been the negative reviews, and the film has definitely been on the back foot, having to sort of claw back, and I think Steph refers to that here. Stephanie Chungu. I didn't read any of the negative reviews, but I didn't want to skew my thoughts. I thought it wasn't bad. Sure, there was no depth in the plot whatsoever. The film was unnecessary and teasy at the start of the film, and the film was basically centered around Deadshot and Harley, but I thoroughly enjoyed the slapstick comedy it tried to bring. The villain was a dead character, and I know what she means by that when she said dead character.
Yeah.
She was the worst one. Brackets, not sorry, Cara. And there was not enough Joker told to make fully make an impact. I would like to see more of Boomerang, Killer Croc, and Diablo, but such is life. I do feel that a lot of work is needed for DC to bring out a supervillain film. With the most notable is a good try, and we shouldn't be so harsh. Plus, the soundtrack is pretty decent. 3 out of 5.
I have to give it to Jai Courtney.
He was fine, wasn't he? He was much better than usual.
He has some fantastic slapstick moments in it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know it was in the trailer and we were all expecting it, but it still made me laugh when they bring him, like, they're transporting him in a body bag.
Yeah.
They unzip it and he just jumps out and just clocks one of the soldiers.
Yeah.
That bit, like, it doesn't matter how many times I see that, it still makes me chuckle a bit. Because it's just so out of the blue, and it's just, it shows his character in a nutshell, and that's really good in terms of, like, show not tell.
Yeah.
Because the issue is with the beginning is, as Alex said, yes, it does give a good depth of character
To some of them.
to some of them, but at the same time, it does feel far too much like exposition.
Oh, way too much.
Yeah.
I can't
Yeah.
believe I actually liked
Exposition doesn't do it
Jai
justice.
Courtney in this film.
I know.
I
But
actually like Jai
Yeah.
Courtney.
He's fine.
but like for me, that moment where, like, you know, he comes out of the bag and he just runs and he just clocks that soldier, you're just like, that is showing and not telling.
Yeah.
And that was a really good moment of characterization for me.
More of that would have been
And,
nice.
Yeah, if they could have had more of that in the film, then honestly, I probably would have liked it a lot more. It's and there was a lot of sort of Justice League plugging. As
Yeah.
much as it was nice, I liked seeing
There was another bit
And-
of show and tell in the film as well. But I think that, for me at least, the scene in the film which showcased the biggest potential of what it could have been and what it should have been in the end was that scene in the bar near the
Yeah.
end, about before the start of the third act.
Most
because
of the
that
trailer
was
stuff
that
not in
scene
the film, is
was
it?
absolutely exceptional. It really was, because you really did get a feel of, right, this is the anti-hero film. This isn't your Guardians. This isn't the Avengers. This is bad people doing bad things in the hope that they get to see their family or they get a prison sentence reduced or something like that. It was really well done, but it went on for a very little amount of time. I wanted to see more of that, because even Joel Kinnaman just put his cards on the table down there. This is the straight and narrow guy who's got a lot of sort of qualms of his own, and you really got to see the potential of the film in there, and I wish it had gone on for more. And another case of show and tell in that, when he's like, if you want to stick with me, you can, and Captain Boomerang just walks away.
He doesn't even walk, does he?
and then
He just legs
he just
it.
legs it with his chinny, and then he comes back like a boomerang, as you would expect.
Honestly, I
like that.
don't mind saying Jai Courtney was probably one of my highlights. Of
I
the film.
really enjoyed him.
Probably was.
He
was really
was
funny.
some as much as I think we all kind of expected Harley to be more the comic relief.
Yeah.
I honestly think Captain Boomerang did a better job of that.
I think Harley would have been if she was given anything interesting
Yeah.
to say, but I don't think
There's
she
been
was.
a lot said about the fact that a lot of the characters in the films are stereotypes, but you can't read. I mean, a lot of when comic characters were made many years ago, they all started out as stereotypes.
That's
didn't they?
normalising it again, though.
Captain
You can't
America
just
started out as
normalise.
the sort of ultra stereotypical American patriot stereotype.
Yeah, and we see that in
And-
Captain America
yeah.
though, but he's got an arc at
Yeah.
least. We see him transform into
Well,
what
these
we
made
now
have
know
an
as
arc.
modern.
You know, it's the first film, I suppose.
That's fair.
So
it's
you
very
never know.
true.
Yeah, go on then.
I want to get through some more of these. Lee Hawthorne, reviews are way too harsh. Deadshot and Harley are incredible. Other characters probably could have done with more information. I imagine casual fans will love it, but as someone who looks for motivations behind actions in films, I was left too often filling in the blanks for myself. Best DC film, but that's not saying much. The motivation thing is the crucial thing for me, the thing that kills the film. I don't see why the villains would care. I don't see why I would care if they don't care. And the whole thing just sort of chugs along with nothing interesting happening. I'm with Lee on that one.
I think I understand why critics have been the way it was, because overall it turned out what
complete mess.
had so much potential. It ended up being very messy and very mediocre. And the most upsetting thing is it's like this. It's a plant growing out of the dead corpse of what could have been a much better film.
It's true.
I just feel like it's got all the pieces there, and it's just it's a shoddily arranged jigsaw of what was a good film.
I'm sure it definitely. There's definitely a good film in there somewhere. As was the case with all of these films, it's something there that's been chopped to bits and totally destroyed by committee. A camel is a horse designed by committee, and I believe that completely in this case.
I mean, we kind of see really what happens when you take away artistic control from people. Because I think that's one thing Warner Bros. Do not understand. They don't understand that these people are filmmakers.
They're too reactionary. As a studio, they can't take criticism.
No.
I've said this before. I think we could write a letter, the four of us, co-sign it and say, look, this is what's wrong with it, and this is what you should do next time. They'll go, yeah, good idea. We'll just re-edit the entire Justice League. We'll shoot a few more scenes. Yeah, is that what you want? Yeah, sure. Yeah. Please love us. Please love us. No, I'm not going to love you.
Marvel are guilty of it as well.
But they do it well.
Well, no, they with Age of Ultron came out probably being quite a low point for Marvel, I think.
Yeah.
And I think the reason that happened was, I think we might have discussed this the last time I was on, was obviously Josh Whedon quite clearly wanted to do something different with the film, and
Marvel took control.
They were like, no, right, spoilers aside, we need Hawkeye alive because Hawkeye will sell toys.
With his little bow and arrow.
Yeah, and basically they took... It's the same with The Hobbit. Hobbit could have been so much better if they'd let the people making the film make the film.
Yeah.
Rather than trying to drive it by what they think will sell. What the people in the suits can't understand is that these people are filmmakers.
Yeah.
They make films, and let's face it, they're good at what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And DC, I think, recently has been, as you said, far too reactionary, trying to respond to everything rather than just focusing on what they do.
They need some security. They're so insecure.
They really
need to stand by their bed with the decisions. Johnny Goldsmith, it's okay, I guess it's kind of fun. It's funny, but it keeps changing from fun to dark, and it can't decide what to do.
I think that might be the re-edits.
Yeah. I thought Joker was good. This is like the one person I found. But not in it long enough.
Fight me.
And not as good as Heath Ledger. But I think that was impossible. Not worth going to see it at midnight like I did. And he's put Harley Quinn was incredibly hot, though. Fair enough. And I sort of challenged and said, like, do you not think that's kind of the way the film does it is a bit pervy and a bit leery? He's like, yeah, it's Zack Snyder, though. And it's true, it is Zack Snyder.
Zack Snyder's...
The man who brought a sucker punch, of course, is going to make Harley Quinn look like some kind of,
I mean, the fact that he worked with Frank Miller as well, I mean, the two individuals with the most messed up gender politics in the world. It's awful. It's like... It's Beavis and Butthead, isn't it? It's not great.
Jamie Rutherford, it feels more like a Deadshot and Harley film. We're getting into this a lot, aren't we? To me, they should have done a series of film introducing these characters. It's a lot of films, wasn't it? It takes too long to explain who everyone is, and each have their backstories worth being in a film. Not entirely keen on Jared's Joker. They should have introduced him in his own film, and Harley's origin story being explored in that. Other than that, Will and Margot did a brilliant performance of their characters. Callum Stringer, I thought was a great adaptation of The Squad. I thought the roles were perfectly executed, and the film developed the potential of some of the characters, such as Deadshot and Harley. Overall, I believe this portrayal of The Squad to be better than the one perceived in the Arrow TV series. Are they in Arrow? I didn't know that.
Are they?
I don't know.
I don't watch it.
I haven't caught up with it, unfortunately. I know they sort of... This is another thing that DC seem to be having a bit of a problem with at the minute, that Marvel have again got down to a T, is the continuity throughout the world, because obviously they have a different Superman in Supergirl, as we were discussing earlier. The Flash from the TV series
wouldn't come across for the films.
Well, I think what he said was it would burn him out far too much, and he felt like he wouldn't be able to give it his all. It would be too much work, kind of thing, which I understand. But at the same time, for him to come on board would have made a huge difference. It would have, I think, helped the fans make a connection between these worlds. Unless they're going to do some kind of injustice thing, and like the Flash TV series exists in one of the different universes, because I know DC are as bad as Marvel for like multiverses.
Yeah.
But
we've got two more to read out because we're kind of running out of time. Paul Barkley, who's a writer for Northern Lights UK. If you go on to northernlightsuk.co.uk, you'll find his full review. I've chosen a little extract here. It's neither interesting or fun, which is a real shame because it starts off very well, much like Batman vs Superman. The first 20 minutes, which introduce the main characters, is genuinely interesting. despite being exposition heavy. Sadly, once we have that, the film collapses like an uncooked souffle. A lot of this is down to the extremely choppy editing, poor scripts, and inconsistent tone. The film seems to be unsure of what it is. At first, it tries to be fun, using famous songs everywhere it can to squeeze them in a cynical attempt to emulate the success that Marvel had with Guardians, of course. But once it hits the city, serious mode is activated and all of the joy is removed from the world. Not to say that there are no attempts at humour, which is welcome after the joyless experience that was Batman vs Superman, but the jokes rarely land and just come across as really poor. Once again, DC have blown it. Like with BVS, they had a great idea on paper, but the final product was sloppy and badly executed. It's not as bad as BVS, but that's not saying much. DC really need Justice League, Wonder Woman and Batman to be successful, because at the moment they are so far behind Marvel that it is embarrassing.
What was the last DC film that was well received by critics?
Dark Knight Rises.
I was going to say, was it The Dark Knight
Yeah,
Rises? The second Nolan walked away. You can see it's just gone to the dogs.
I think
really.
if Wonder Woman's bad, the entire DC universe just can't it can't be looked on as something serious.
I mean, I feel like Man of Steel.
I didn't like Man of Steel.
Man of Steel originally was very well received.
Right.
Like
it was
For
split,
me,
wasn't it? Like,
for me,
split.
I really enjoyed the beginning of it, and I think you can kind of see Christopher Nolan's touch in that he really tries to get into it. Yeah, but I think he has quite the influence on it in some places. There's you can see in the beginning of the film they really try to get into the head of Superman, which is great, because one of my biggest issues with Superman is the man is too strong.
That's probably the biggest reason why I think it's terrific, mate.
He's not very humanized, and I feel like the first sort of 2 acts of Man of Steel are very good. They explore the character and the inner turmoil he feels, and things that I personally hadn't seen in a Superman film before, and that really was touching for me. I really liked that. And then Zack Snyder wrote that last act, and it was just, hey, blow up some buildings. Let's kill millions of people and cause billions of pounds worth of damage.
Yes.
I know it was typical,
and it was just too big. It was too much.
I know it was typical Snyder, but to be fair, it's this near unstoppable being who's just figuring out how to use his powers for the first time. To be fair, there's going to be collateral. I still think it's like after the destruction, I still think it's the best ending of a superhero film there's been.
I know,
personally,
but I think
after the destruction,
for me, the original Hulk film, the one with Eric Bana, did this quite well, because you've got this huge hulking, ridiculously powerful being, and what they do is they try to not set him loose in the city. A lot of it is out in the desert, which, as much as
I quite like that film.
It's a good film. It had good bits to it. It's not generally well received nowadays, I don't think, but still probably quite underrated. But the thing is with Man of Steel, like, Superman could have easily dragged the fight over to somewhere not populated, you know.
But we want to see buildings go boom. So
Yes, we us as an audience, we love boom. We've got one final read out. We've run out of time, unfortunately, but Paul Miller says, and this is the one I agree with most, a rushed, lazy and unimaginative attempt to cash in on the niche subculture and subsequent success of Guardians of the Galaxy, derivative of the aforementioned in various obvious traits. The narrative is pretty much season 4 of the A-Team, and we all know how chronic that
helicopter
was.
crashes.
Yeah, with lots of exposition and flashbacks thrown in, so that most of the audience in the cinema knew who or what they were watching. Will Smith is just Will Smith. Jared Leto was horrendously miscast, offering a mundane, bling-fixated gang boss rather than the Joker. He couldn't be further from the character's ethos if he tried, an expected disappointment, if honest, unless you're not interested in the DC mythos at all and just fancy a bit of a dark romp stylized with neon and grit, then you'll probably like it. Thank you to everyone who got in touch with this. It's the most feedback we've had since Batman vs Superman, which makes a lot of sense.
We've
got through it all. Actually, we've not. We've got a few more that I'll probably get to on the podcast. If you go and join us there, we'll do Sweet Bean and Nasty Baby, which we didn't get a chance to do on this show, unfortunately. But there's just so much stuff to get through. Thank you for getting in touch. Thank you for listening. If you've got anything you want to add to the conversation, at LRJ Film Show on Facebook and Twitter. To finish today's show, a song from the soundtrack of Suicide Squad, of which there are many to choose from. But I thought we'll go for the one that it finishes the film, and for me, it's kind of like one of the only songs that fit and I liked in the film.
We didn't say recommend or not.
No, I don't recommend it at all.
I don't recommend it.
I would recommend it, just 'cause I thought it was a wild ride, and you know, for every misfire it had, it was a success when it had to be.
I fell asleep.
Joe fell asleep. I disagree. Jake, you're kind of fine with it. Yeah. We've kind of covered it all.
It had some good bits. It had some alright bits, and it had some terrible bits, i.e. Jared Leto. And overall, it balanced out as being mediocre at best, okay at mediocre at worst, okay at best.